A lot of times when we decide to remain in isolation, there's something that we're holding on to and that we're not allowing to heal. Be careful. Don't get stuck in the isolation. Hello, guys. Okay, I think I should just start with the bevy of the day, because walking on with the belly and a wine glass, let's just explain, okay? This is rosé, but of course it's non-alcoholic rosé. It's by the company called Naughty. It's spelled Noughty, but it tastes pretty good. I really am a stickler for switching things out, like having fake rosé, fake wine. But the two that I tried from this company were really good. Now, I think the reason is that they are de-alcoholized. So they had alcohol at one point and all of the alcohol was removed. Some of those wines still have a very small percentage, but to each their own. I had a red blend and a rosé, and the two that I had from this company taste the most like wine, and I think it's because they used to be a wine that was de-alcoholized. I had it the other day at my family's cookout. My husband popped it for me like I was getting bottle service. He goes along with my shenanigans, and it made me happy, okay? Our topic today is solitude versus isolation. Now, I think I used to use these words interchangeably until I did a little bit more research, and I came across a quote that said, isolation is self-protection from society, whereas solitude is preparation for society. And the subtle difference in that is that isolation feels like you are trying to keep yourself away from everything outside. Now, y'all know I get it. I am a person that is take a break, walk away from the internet, protect your peace, keep yourself away from people. It's a crazy world going on right now, especially right now. It's the elections. It's a lot happening. So I get the protect yourself from the outside. Now, I'm going to speak on this because I believe in both. And I believe at a certain time in your healing journey or in life in general, both are appropriate at different times. Isolation should be temporary. It should be something that you do to get yourself stronger, to get yourself to a really good space so that you can handle the outside world, which is essentially what solitude is. When they say solitude is preparation for the outside world, it's essentially that. But I do think there is a point where you have to pull away and protect yourself from the outside so that you can get yourself together. I don't think there should be a negative connotation, but I don't think your goal should be to isolate, because I believe that we are here to experience other people and experience life and have new experiences. And it's if you isolate, are you going to have these new experiences or the things that are meant for you? I mean, we always come across the things that are meant for us, but some of us do not take the opportunity and are not doing the work to actually grow. I know so many people who decided to isolate and remained in that, and it made it almost impossible to have any type of relationships or any type of happiness or joy, because the standards that they set and the judgments that they set in this isolation were impossible to meet. So today I'm gonna really go into deep detail about this, and I'm going to speak about this specifically in reference to someone asked me a question recently. I can't find it. I just came across it again the other day. I think I screenshotted it, and someone asked me to speak on letting go of family relationships or close relationships. I did have a video that I'm going to tag here already that speaks to your relationships and, whether you have to let them all go as you grow on this process. But to specifically speak to how isolation and solitude are going to help you make these decisions a lot better. Because from the place where you are, from the place where a person is asking that question, you probably haven't sat with yourself and done the work of healing certain things. And I've been there. I've been at that point where I feel like I have relationships that I really value, or I have relationships that in order to sever that relationship and never see this person, come in contact with this person, I would have to sever so many other relationships, friendships, family relationships. I would have to not attend any events. I would have to make a really big decision. And for me, that's not an option because I grew up very close to my family. And the older I get, the more that I appreciate that. I am from a Haitian, Puerto Rican, and African American background. And so both sides of my family, my dad's side, my mom's side, I have a lot of family, and we get together and celebrate everything. You know, my mom and dad host a cookout every year where my family comes in from other states and, you know, we all just celebrate together. We get together for everyone's weddings and baby showers and things like that still. So it's not an option for me. Again, I'm going to speak in detail to how complicated that can be and the ways that I work through that and my suggestions on not only you learning to isolate healthily, to appreciate and grow your practice of solitude. And that needs to be something that is consistent throughout life. How to manage those relationships after coming out of that isolation and solitude and getting yourself together, but also ways of building yourself up and protecting yourself without having to be separated from everyone. Ways of preparing yourself and pouring into yourself so much when you are in those moments of solitude that no one outside of you can shake you. And that is the goal of this video, is to give you the tools, or some of the tools that I use at least, to get there. So with that, I want to share one of the cards from my I'm Listening Self-Love Edition deck. This one says, how do I feel when I'm alone with myself? Be 1,000% honest. If the answer isn't making you feel all warm and fuzzy, in my words, of course, brainstorm ways that you can begin to truly love the time you spend with yourself. As someone who grew up very attached to people, I definitely had abandonment, attachment issues growing up. I needed people to occupy my time all the time. I got attached to my friends. I didn't want them to go home. My cousins, anybody that came to my house, I would not want them to leave. And then once I started getting into romantic relationships, I would attach myself and I would want to spend all my time. So very unhealthy, even to the point where I would cancel plans with friends or anybody because I just wanted to be with this person. I would become so focused on them, and I did not want to spend time alone. In college, going through ups and downs with my boyfriend is when I really learned to love my time alone. And it was almost forced. And that's why I say all of the things that you go through, the things that you perceive as bad, are teaching you something and are trying to build you and make you stronger. And it is a huge reason why I never regret all the ups and downs that me and my husband went through in the beginning of our relationship, because again, it showed me so much of what I needed to work on. And one of the main things was learning to be by myself and be happy. I remember I took that time to really take care of myself, to watch my favorite movies. I wasn't into journaling and meditating back in college, but I took that time to reconnect with my friends. And then after that, I did my best not to lose that again in a relationship. So really think about, how do you feel when you're alone? And if you don't have practices that feel really good for you, because trust me, now I got to rip myself away from my alone time. I love it. I love the time that I get to just lounge around. I get to plan. I get to get all these ideas out of my head. I do my best to use that time for hobbies, my painting, my keyboard. We lost the power cord. We just plugged it back in, so I'm getting back to that, I promise. Speaking of how we spend our time and hobbies and pouring into ourselves, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. You guys know I shared this before. I talked about learning the keyboard, learning the piano. I also talked about pouring more into my business. So you guys know what I am working on, but I've had a lot of you ask questions about what editing software I use for my videos. Here on Skillshare, they do have videos that cater to that. I use Final Cut Pro. Here's a perfect example of a class that walks you through Final Cut Pro. I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I figured this out very easily, and I use it to edit all of my reels, all of the videos you watch here on YouTube. The same with my photos. I use Lightroom, and I saw a class that walks you through Lightroom and how to use it to edit your photos. You can find anything that you're looking for. And again, I like to speak to hobbies, because when you're in isolation or you're taking that time of solitude and you're doing this healing, I hope that you're finding fun things to do for yourself. Painting, drawing, learning a new musical instrument. I also love the ability to just search what you want. There's a learning path that walks you through Canva as well. I use Canva for everything. Everything that I launch here, I use Canva for. Logos, all of my thumbnails, the collage pictures that you see me post here on YouTube and on Instagram. I create all of that in Canva. Wherever you are, if you are looking to start a business, and for all of those asking me those questions, Skillshare is perfect because it walks you right through that. I wish I could answer all the questions all the time, but I can't. And Skillshare is a perfect resource for you to get all those questions out there and get that guidance that you're looking for. So of course, I have some goodies for you. The first 500 people to sign up with my link down in the description will get a free month of Skillshare. So now let's get into this solitude versus isolation. I want to touch on isolation first, because isolation can feel like it's something you have to do long term, and it's something that it can feel scary. I know for me, when I had to do it, when I had to step away from everything and everyone, because I was really in internal despair. I just was confused, and I knew I was searching for something but didn't really know what it was. Separating myself from my friends and my family. And when I say this, like, I wasn't like missing weddings and like, big events or things, but I just was not going out as much. I wasn't on the internet as much. I wasn't reaching out to people as much to do too much. I really was just kind of in my cocoon, and I was doing a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of watching self-help videos and movies and things like that, just to pick the minds of those who have been in this space and have gotten to where I want to be. Kind of like when you guys come here and you hear that I've healed through things, you come here to get that inspiration. I was doing that. I was gaining a lot of knowledge about things that I didn't know, a lot of spiritual knowledge, doing a lot of research about spirituality, and just pouring into myself. And I feel like that was necessary. I didn't have a solitude ritual at that time. I didn't have a healthy solitude ritual. The first thing I had to do was isolate. I had to separate myself from everything and spend more time with myself. I think it takes time to grow into loving that solitude, right? I think it begins as isolation. Once you do that, you start to figure out, as you heal and as you learn yourself and as you let yourself cry and journal and release, and, as you pick up your new habits and these new things you're learning, whatever you decide to do that feels good for you in your time of isolation, you then start to realize the places that you can kind of let up. But in that beginning, it is important to be really rigid. It's important to almost question everything at that point, because you're trying to find yourself. And up to this point, you've probably taken on everyone's opinions and, taken on what your parents have passed down and your family has passed down and what your friends are doing and, what your partner was saying. And maybe you weren't in the best friendships or partnerships, and maybe you don't have the healthiest relationships with your family. And it takes that time to realize all those things, right? As you build and as you listen to these stories of other people who have been through what you have been through, as you start to build your self-confidence and break down and build yourself back up, you'll start to realize the places that you need to cut off, the places that you need to make adjustments, set boundaries, and the places that are healthy and that you can integrate yourself back into pretty easily, right? And then you start to have your practice. And this is what I consider solitude. Healthy solitude is when you start to have your practices and your things that you turn to. These are not things that last just a month or whatever time period that you're going through this intense healing. These are things that stick. These are the things that you want to continue to do so that you can remain in this space of peace, in this space of knowing yourself before anybody else has an opinion and anybody else can pour into you. Things like meditation, like journaling or prayer, just sitting down and talking to God and talking to the universe and asking for what it is that you're looking for, or just speaking out loud, because I told you guys that has been my form of like meditation journaling lately, is speaking out loud the things that keep popping up. So when they're in my head versus when I get it out, I get to really pick it apart. And sometimes I'll hear something in my mind, and when I say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous. And I'm able to detach from it, or I'm able to empower myself. Now I've said it out loud, it sounds so much more powerful, or I realize I sound unhealthy, or it's something I need to work on. So I like speaking out loud, and I like doing that in my solitude. It could be my time in the shower, it could be my meditation time, my time in the car. I'll just leave the radio off and I'll just talk. Now, how does this relate to those family relationships or long-term friendships that you feel you may have to completely let go of? It's a thin line that connects it, but it's one that's really important, because if you are not taking the time to understand yourself and to build your confidence and to be sure in who you are, it's going to be easy for anybody outside to pick and poke, especially family and close friends that know how to just get under your skin. And those are the things that have been getting under your skin for years. Those are going to be the hardest things to healthily respond to. Been there, done that. But the more that you practice not allowing anybody outside of you to take you out of your zen and your peace that you've built up for yourself, the easier it becomes. I take that question about family and friends and letting go of those relationships, I take that is about those family and friends that don't necessarily align with where you're going, with the person you've become or the person that you've finally allowed to flourish, right? I'm taking it that question is about those people. It's not about the people that you love, get along with, and, value, cherish. It's not about those people. It's the ones that maybe are an integral part of your family or an integral part of your friend circle. You're trying to figure out, do I just walk away from this whole thing? Do I just completely cut them out? Or how do I learn to coexist? That's the way that I'm taking it. And I will say this. I read a lot of things and I hear a lot of things that say anything that's unhealthy, you completely cut it off and you walk away. I want that to be that easy. I really do. I hear those things and I feel like empowered when I hear it. And then I go to apply it to my personal real life. And I think that's what we all do. We hear these things, but when we try to apply it to our actual lives, and we look at how complicated relationships are and how intertwined it is with your other relationships and with almost anything going forward when you're talking about family members or long-term friends, right? It's not that easy. It's just not that easy. And for those of you that it is that easy, then we are coming from two different spaces. Because I've realized for me, cutting off a family member or a longtime friend that I don't necessarily feel aligned with anymore, that maybe we've had a lot of run-ins in the past, maybe I feel disrespected by, or I feel like they're just not ready to have a conversation or get to a healthier place. Those relationships are also intertwined with people that will be for sure in my life for the rest of my life. So what do? I'll start by saying this and using this saying. You teach people how to treat you. The way that you react to things, or whether you don't react and you walk away, when you decline invitations and things like that, that is going to show people that you are serious this time. We also see a lot of attack the problem head on, say exactly what you have to say, go have a conversation with those people. In my experience, and this is just me, and I know a lot of times when I speak, we're here, right? They're not ready for it. And a lot of times going to have that conversation with that person feels like it's going to bring so much more back on me than it's going to make an impact or make a change. And I can see just by this person's actions, by this person's words, while I'm sitting back getting myself together and still watching them do the thing that they do, I can see that they are not ready for this conversation. And a lot of us can see that, right? A lot of times when we open our eyes to something, it takes people around us a long time or maybe never to get to that point of wanting to mature, wanting to get past this, or wanting to heal through something. Just because we are healing does not mean those people are healing. Now I feel like I'm getting to a stronger place, but in the beginning, where I still had to attend things and I still had to be places, I knew I was still fragile. And a lot of us are still fragile in that point. And when I say fragile, it doesn't mean you're going to break down and cry. It means you might go back to, for me, being defensive. Go back to the person you just didn't want to be, the person you've been trying to heal from. Okay, I feel like I'm going deep, but I hope you're sticking with me. So I don't always feel like it's the healthiest or best thing. I don't feel like anything has one answer. Different people require different strategy. I know the people who I have a deep relationship with that I can sit down and have a conversation with. And I know the people that are going to take it, run, make more of a mess of it, make it a big thing, start giving me energy that I don't want and that I don't need. And so for me, showing people how to treat me has been my best bet. And I have had the conversations and sat down and had conversations with people that I felt were open to have conversations. And those have went amazingly. And when I use my intuition in that way, and when I use my gut instinct in that way, it works out for me. My gut instinct has told me plenty of times, this is not a conversation I want to have with certain people, because I don't feel like it's going to be productive, because what I have to say is probably going to offend them, especially where they are. So I work on myself. And I learned how not to react to what I normally would react to, because that is what they're looking for. I learned to walk away when I feel like things are getting crazy. I'm gonna head out. I also learned, just because I'm in this group setting, I am not having one-on-ones. I'm not going out of my way to maintain this relationship because it's unhealthy. These people do not have access to me the way that they used to, and they know that. They feel that. They feel that difference. Once you stop reacting, I promise you, people pick up on things a lot faster than we think they will. And when people are in this space of putting out anger, negativity, wanting to argue, wanting to pick, when they're doing that, they're looking for a reaction. The reaction is what keeps them going. And the more angry you get, the more that you pump it up and the more that you keep it going. There's something going on in there, but that's not your problem. And so what I'm saying is when you learn to react differently from people and not give them what they're looking for, they learn. It might take them some time, but they learn that you're not the one. And it's also not fun for them anymore. It's not giving them that drive that it was giving them before, because you used to react, right? You used to argue back, you used to get defensive, they love that. And when you don't do that anymore, and when you remove yourself from that, they see. You teach people how to treat you. It is up to you. Another thing that you may do, where before you may have let them say something to you, and maybe you got quiet and maybe you never said anything. So maybe your reaction now is by speaking up for yourself, staying in your bubble. You don't have to come out. You don't got to argue, but speaking up for yourself. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that today. I'm going to go ahead and walk away, because that's something different. It's reacting from a stronger space. It's letting it be known, stating what you have to state, but we don't have to sit down and have a conversation. I just want you to know that this is what it is. We're not doing this anymore. Your actions can speak very loudly for you. They have done wonders for me. Are these people probably still talking behind your back or saying something? Or at some point, I've been at this for, again, like 10 years of this healing journey. I know for a fact even people close to me, I'm sure, have so much to say or have had so much to say, because yes, I set some very strict boundaries that I did not witness in my close family or friends. I don't want to sit around and gossip. I don't want to sit around and talk about how broke we are. I want to spend my time speaking what I want to see. I'm growing my family. I'm growing my business. I'm buying a home. I want to be around people that speak about that. I want to speak about what possibilities are. I know all the negativity going on. There's always something going on. I get it, but I don't want to focus my time on that. So I know that can make someone feel judged. That can make someone feel like, now that you've made these changes, who do you think you are? It's how they're reflecting on themselves, right? But that's not your concern. Although it was on my mind in the beginning, and although it pops up every so often, I swipe it away just as quickly as it comes into my mind, because it's not my business. I don't care. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I can't care, because I love who I am, and I love even more of who I'm becoming. And I understand that that's not everybody's path. And I understand that that will trigger some people because they don't understand it. And you have to understand that too. Let them talk. And if they are mature enough to say, hey, let's have a conversation, I say be open to it. As long as it's a respectful, like, let's have a conversation, and not like a altercation. You know the difference. And if you sit down to have a calm conversation and it starts to turn, remove yourself. You're willing to have a conversation, but we're not going to do this. That's what I mean by you teach people how to treat you, because the next time they come to have a conversation, they're going to know we're going to keep it a respectful conversation, or we're not going to have it. This is what isolation in the beginning, and then your regular solitude and pouring into yourself and listening to stories outside of what you've always witnessed, opening your mind and opening your heart to your possibilities of what life can be and how relationships can be and how life can feel. Once you start opening your mind to that, you realize that dysfunction doesn't have to be your norm, and that you can remain a part of your family, a part of your friend group, without allowing those people to have personal access to you. Does that make sense? You don't have to cut off the world. You don't have to cut everybody off and start a new life. Now, again, this is for those who still have a desire to be integrated into their family and into their friend groups. There are some people who come from very dysfunctional families, very unhealthy, things that you do not want to be around. You don't want your kids around, and that I get too. And then that type of isolation and removing yourself is necessary, right? I support you doing what's best for you. Only you know what is for you. None of these videos or none of my tips, none of these apply to everyone. But understand that if you have to make a decision for yourself and for your family, and the best thing is to start over. I also know people who have started over and completely separated themselves. I also know that many of those people did it from a place of anger and still hold a lot of anger and still hold a lot of resentment. I know a lot of those people have a lot of triggers and a lot of trauma they're holding on to. And this is not to judge anybody, but it's just to say that a lot of times when we decide to remain in isolation, there's something that we're holding on to and that we're not allowing to heal. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. It's not even just the isolation, but we get stuck in the anger of the trauma. Like Mama Tina said, it's called going through it because you're going to get through it. It's not getting stuck there. Don't get stuck in the isolation. There's people who isolate and then never trust again. And so even if they move to another town, they're not open to making new friends. They're not open to new experiences. And life is not meant to be lived that way. Be careful when you are isolating, even if you are saying this environment is very unhealthy. I really hope that you get help to work your way through these problems and learn how to heal through them for yourself, for your children, for your family, for your spouse, your partner, and for you to have a beautiful quality of life. It is so hard to heal through these things, especially when it comes from family that is supposed to be love and support, right? It's hard to heal through these things, and it's easier to say, I'm just going to stay in my bubble. But we aren't meant to live like that. It's not fair that they get to do that and then they take away your quality of life and what you get to experience and what you get to see. So I pray that if you're listening to this and you are in that space of anger and of mistrust and of completely keeping everybody away from you and your family, and I really want to put out a gentle nudge of therapy and of more videos like this to just kind of walk you through, and maybe really watching someone that has experienced what you experienced and see what they have to say about it. That might be more triggering because a lot of people aren't coming from the most gentle space. And I feel like when we're in this, we need just a gentle nudge. We don't need to be screamed at or yelled at. That's happened enough, right? But just looking for the light, for a way to experience this with joy and not have to be a prisoner of how someone else treated you or what someone else did to you, not have to then live your life based on that. Now, let's get it very clear. I am absolutely not saying force yourself to be around these people, force yourself to spend time or build unhealthy relationships or build relationships with unhealthy or toxic people. Some people have really hurt you physically, mentally, however this may affect you, whatever may be popping up for you. There's going to be those situations where you're like, this is just not a healthy environment, this environment at all, depending on what your situation is or what happened or what your animosity is with this family member or this friend. When you have a group of people where no one is ready to confront it, people know what the negativity is, whatever it may be, but no one's really addressing it. You have to make a decision for yourself. Is this a healthy environment for you to be in at all, overall? Again, I use myself as an example. I know that I have amazing relationships and people in my family and people in my friend groups. And I know for the majority, it's good vibes. For the majority, it is alignment. I feel like I'm very different, and I always have been, from a lot of the people around me with my spiritual practices and the way I eat and all those things and like the words I choose to use and all those things. I'm very different, so I have to be careful with that. That could easily make me just isolate because there's not a lot of people that are doing exactly what I'm doing. But I value those friendships, relationships, family relationships. And like I said, majority is good vibes. Majority is what I'm so willing to work for and find our common ground and continue our relationships, right? And then there's just that few percent that's like, this is someone that probably, if it weren't for my family and it wasn't for my friends and wanting to hold on, I don't know that I would even want to pursue, or I probably wouldn't, right? That's for me. But for somebody, the negativity might be through like 90% of the group. And then I really feel like you have to ask yourself, is this even worth me staying in? And are you staying in it because it's familiar and because of history? Or because you're scared of what's out there or leaving and being talked about and being ostracized? Or are you staying because it's a space where you feel good? It's a space where you light up and you have fun and you can still find joy in. You have to question why you're keeping yourself in a space and is it worth it? I have to speak to and for those who have the experiences like me, where it's not this black and white, cut them off and move on. It's not like that. You know, some of us really are blessed enough to have these really strong relationships with some negativity sprinkled in there, with some things that are out of alignment. It can be scary being on this journey of learning yourself, isolating and, continuing to dig and continuing to heal, because not many people around you are going to do it. And again, I like to speak to the fact that I've seen so many people heal so much or be so focused on healing that they can't relate to people. if that's working for you, that's beautiful. And I always say, if it works for you, I support you. But I know for me, that started to get scary. That isolating feeling, that healing to a point of not being able to relate. I didn't want that for myself. I want to have healthy connection. I want to be able to heal without judging. I realized that feeling of not being able to connect came from judgment. It came from feeling like anyone who was not like me, who didn't think like me, who didn't speak like me, who weren't cutting the same things off and committed to the same things. I started to feel like anybody that wasn't perfectly aligned with that, they were not people I could be around. If they gossiped, if they did this, if they did all the things that I was really trying to like mentally block out and change about myself, I was like, I can't be around them. And I really started to become obsessed with my healing and this isolation of feeling like if it's not that person, then I don't want to be around them. And for me, it did not feel good. And it didn't feel okay. I wanted to be able to be around people who were different from me. People who have differing opinions without cracking or without getting defensive. I feel like there is a line. There's a line of setting your boundaries, and you don't have to participate in all those things. You can be who you are and be around people who have differing opinions and who are okay with where they are, as long as you set those boundaries to let people know, I'm not the one to have that conversation. I'm not the one. And the relationships that fall off will naturally fall off. Anybody who can't deal with the fact that you want to talk about positivity or you want to laugh and joke and you want to have a good time, and that doesn't look like talking about people, or that doesn't look like whatever things that you're cutting off and healing through. If someone can't accept that, then I don't know that you should be around them. But acknowledge the people that are willing to put it to the side, get with you, talk about your accomplishments, talk about their accomplishments, have a drink, and being able to have fun and find joy in the world without it having to be this very specific thing. And these very specific rules is how I think you find like freedom and joy. And you can be as strong in yourself as you want to be. You're able to be around different people without it attacking your character. I think that's when we know we have really grown. The healing is settling and you're becoming stronger and more confident in yourself, because you don't need everybody to be like you in order to confirm that what you're doing for you is right. Just be you. You get to be you and they get to be them. And don't disrespect what I do. I won't disrespect what you do unless you ask. There's a lot of people who come up to me and they're like, how do you do this? How do you meditate? And you don't eat this and you don't. And then we have conversations if you bring it up, but I'm not going to force myself on you anymore. I did at one point, but I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not my job. You deserve to choose who you want to be, and I deserve to be who I want to be. And anyone who disrespects that, boundaries. You're going to spend most of your time with people who are aligned with you. I pray that you find those people, or until you find those people, that you're pouring into yourself, and you're pouring into yourself through positive things that make you feel good. I pray that that's what you're doing for yourself on a normal basis. And right now we're focused on like the relationships and not letting them go. And when you have to be in environments with people that maybe used to trigger you, that's only going to happen a small percentage of the time. It's not going to be all the time. And I hope that you understand that you're isolating and then creating this solitude so that you can grow and you can be the best version of yourself. It's important to then surround yourself with that primarily, so it can keep reinforcing it and making it solidified, making it concrete that that's who you are. Now I'm going to touch on this very quickly because depending on your situation and what you went through with these people or that person, this next topic could be really triggering, and it may be something that you're like, absolutely not. But this is something that has really helped me to see people in a different light. And I mean, I'm talking people that I was just like, oh, I can't stand them. I don't want to be around them. This has helped me tremendously. Compassion. All right, let's break it down. Let's break it down before we use it as like we always say, a buzzword. Have compassion for people. I'm not about to just leave you on the ledge like that, right? Here's what I truly mean by compassion. No one is born mean or wanting to hurt people or vindictive or defensive or angry. No one is born like that. Something happens. And I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm going to go ahead and say like 99% of the time it starts in childhood. Something happened in childhood to make those people the way that they are. I know that because of the healing I have done in myself. This is why it's so important for you to go inward first, do the work in yourself. Because when you have truly gone through the healing process, or you're going through the healing process, And you start to dig those things up and you realize that so much of it has come from childhood or your younger years, things you picked up, things you were told, things you learned or you saw that you latched onto that came into adulthood. And you've been acting from this traumatic thing that shaped you or made you believe something about yourself or made you act a certain way. For myself, being defensive, I thought that that's who I was, just a defensive person. And I thought I was protecting myself. You know, you're not going to talk to me like that. People know they're not going to talk to me like that because I'm going to have something to say. Being this aggressive person, that wasn't who I was, though. It's not who I am. It's not who I want to be. It's who I thought I had to be, and then I became it. And it became who I was. And so that was mine. Somebody else then becomes the bully themselves. I know we don't get it. I know we like to say, but someone can go through bullying and then they become an advocate for bullying. Well, and then there's the opposite. And we don't know why. We don't know why people's brains work the way that they work. We don't know why some people go this way and some people go this way, but it happens. And we can apply that to almost everything. The worst of the worst of the worst. And it's not to say that I have compassion, but I accept it. We're going back to acceptance. It doesn't mean I accept that this is the way that you are and I'm just going to love you through it. That's not my job. I may love you from afar, but again, boundaries. I don't accept that. I don't accept that into my world, but the compassion allows me not to be so angry at you. It actually allows me to now watch you from that lens and see you reacting and know this is something way deeper than this situation and all the tens of hundreds of situations that happened before. It has nothing to do with those situations and everything to do with how you're feeling inside and what you feel like you need to do right now. You feel like you need to do the most. You feel like you need to be yelling at somebody. You feel like you need to talk down to somebody because that's making you feel powerful. And we all know that that is not true power. My compassion goes to what happened to you, but I'm not accepting of it. I'm going to still walk away. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to hope for the best. But for me, compassion has changed so much. And I mean this. I mean it, like truly thinking, sitting down and thinking about what happened. When did it happen? And what are they truly feeling to be doing this all the time, right? That has helped me. That is my tidbit on it. I'm going to leave it there. Last but not least, here's my very quick tips of how I keep myself uplifted and how I continue to pour into that, bringing that vitality out, being that more joyful person that I focus on when I'm in solitude, how to strengthen that so that the outside world can't easily penetrate it. One, just focus on really filling yourself with the things that make you feel good. Let's find some good movies. And I want to say watch nostalgic movies. But I want you to question what's nostalgic for you because what's nostalgic from the person before you started healing might be really unhealthy now. So just question those. Let's overload on your favorite movies. Treat yourself to your favorite foods. I have a playlist called Good Feels on Tidal. It's everybody from like Gladys Knight to Jay-Z, Beyonce to Stevie Wonder, Shaka Khan. I got everybody on there because it's all the songs that just light me up and make me feel good. We got slow songs, we got upbeat songs, and it's songs that make me feel something and they make me feel something good. And I've actually wound up deleting some songs off because of the changes I've made in the last year. I'm like, this no longer makes me feel good. And I'm listening to the words and I'm like, this ain't it no more. I think I was doing the sad girl thing where like sad songs made me feel good. That can't be on my Good Feels playlist. I still got my 90s R&B where I'm going through a heartbreak that's not actually happening. We're still there. But like my Good Feels playlist is all good feels. Another thing that I would suggest that you do is on Instagram, as I'm scrolling and I read something that like motivates me, makes me feel really good, I have a folder that I save it to. It's been named different things. I think a few years ago it was like Finding Me, and I saved everything that made me feel like coming home and like learning more about myself, and I would go back and scroll through it. And it doesn't just have to be like inspirational like videos and posts. Those are mainly what's in there, but it also was like seeing somebody wearing something that just made me feel like that's the type of fashion I want to embody, or just the aura I want to embody. It'd be hairstyles, nails, it just be flowers, it'd be anything that felt like where I was trying to get to, the life that I knew I've been trying to get to, but I haven't quite gotten there. this folder was just filled of those things. So it's like the equivalent of my music playlist, but just in visuals, in memes and words and videos and looks, and so I keep changing it. The next one was like time to expand, and it was like the next level of pouring into myself. And I think right now it's called time to be. No longer like pushing, but now just really leaning into who I am. And I save stuff there that just reinforces who I am and who I'm creating and pouring into, or bringing up, not even creating, but just like allowing to come to the surface. So with this, I hope that you are following pages that are uplifting you and making you feel good. There's nothing like scrolling through my timeline and just over and over getting poured into, and then being able to go through that folder as many times as I need to just keep pouring into myself, continuing to speak myself up. And with that, like saying my affirmations, and it's like, how high can I get? That's really how it is. How high can I get? How happy can I get? How much joy can I bring up for myself? A lot of times we doom scroll and it's to a point where anything is popping up, but having this is like a curated, it really is a curated feed. It's not any sponsored anything. It is just your folder with the things that you have saved, and being able to scroll through that and just get a hit after hit after hit of like pouring into yourself. And these are the ways that I like cheat the code, like create these things you can turn to that just really feel good, and start to reflect that in your home. Fill your house with the things that feel good, declutter, fill your house with flowers and things that feel good, and find ways. There's endless ways. Start working on your wardrobe to make it feel like you. Go to the thrift store if you need to. I used to shop at the thrift store all the time when I didn't have it. Okay, and I would find the goodies and make them come to life for what I wanted to see at that point. There's excuses, and then there's doing it, and you can get there. The goal is so that nothing outside can penetrate that. And so that's how we're spending our alone time. We're pouring into ourselves, and we are setting boundaries to make sure that we honor all the work that we're doing on ourselves. And it doesn't happen overnight. It took me years to get to that point. It took me years to be okay with not isolating anymore, but to reintegrating myself and finding my new norm as who I am right now, and still being in these spaces. So as always, I pray that this opened your eyes, you learned something new, you take something away. You can rewatch this as many times as you need to. I hope that I broke it down and said all the things that I wanted to say, because this is a big topic, and it's easy to get caught up in isolation when all you're trying to do is build yourself up and heal. It's very easy to get caught there. It is scary to open back up. It's scary to trust again. It's scary to put yourself back in places that may not have been the best, right? But as someone who has gotten through that and continues to build myself up, continues to pour into myself, I can tell you that when you feel really, truly good and confident in who you are and who you're becoming, and you feel good about the person that you're working on, there's no environment that can just tear you down like that. Okay? Again, we're not talking about always putting ourselves in these environments that are like triggering us and, negative and not feeling good. No, but when we are in those situations where we can't avoid that person, we can't avoid those things, we can't avoid it, I want you to be strong enough. I want you to be happy enough to let these things bounce off of you, and realize that those things spewed at you are coming from someone who's not taking care of themselves. It's coming from someone who is not in their best space. You keep working on you. You keep working on your triggers, and you keep asking yourself, why are you triggered by certain things, and how do you work on getting to a good space in that? That's what you need to do. That's your job. Okay? If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Make sure that you turn on notifications so you don't miss any more videos. And until next time, keep living in love, in light, and in your truth. Mwah. Bye.